In this tutorial, we take a look at setting white balance and picture controls with CameraRC. On the white balance tab, you will see that the controls available for setting white balance on newer Nikon cameras. On older cameras, some settings are not available. We will show these later in the tutorial when we switch to setting up a Nikon D40. At the top, you see the white balance setting. Notice that for any setting, you can set the white balance adjuster to fine-tune the white balance for that setting. So here on the incandescent, we've set a white balance fine-tune up here, and then we're going to switch to auto, and we can set that down in the blue range. If we go back to incandescent, you'll see that it's up here. So each of these can be set to a different point. If you want to, you can switch your white balance to color temperature and adjust the color temperature using the color temperature settings. We'll set it to daylight or close to daylight. Also, if you are using a fluorescent, you can set the fluorescent type from here, depending on the type of fluorescent light used. These are standard Nikon settings. Notice here if I select a preset, down at the bottom, you'll see the preset name changing to go with that particular preset. This section of the white balance preset can also be used to change the name of a preset white balance. So here I'm going to change it to, let's say this was our daylight preset. We can rename that there, and that will then be set down in the camera as the white balance preset name. Once again, this demonstrates the power of CameraRC to simplify changing text fields down in the camera without having to do a letter by letter entry. So now we're going to move to the picture controls. And picture controls are used on newer Nikon cameras. Once again, we'll show the equivalent settings on a D40 later. Notice that you can select either defined or custom picture controls from the picture control setting here at the top. So here we're going to select standard, which is one of the normal picture controls available on my Nikon camera. And when I've selected that picture control, I can go down and I can set any of the settings associated with that quite easily. And these will be sent down instantly to the camera as they are changed. I'm not going to go over the meanings for all these controls. I think that those can be found in your Nikon manuals. The one thing I will touch on here is a custom curve button. This button does not have any effect. It just signifies it's a display only, and it signifies if the current picture control custom picture control has a custom curve associated with it. If you're using custom controls, you can rename them real easy too with CameraRC. For example, here we have one called Standard 04. I can change that name very simply by just calling it STD04, let's say. And I just click the rename, and now you'll see that the name has been changed to STD04. I can also delete a custom picture control just by selecting a picture control I want to get rid of. In this case, I'm going to get rid of that same one, and I just hit the delete button. I get a validation. I can always not opt out of that if I desire. I say yes to delete it, and now if I look, there's no more Standard 04. Another thing to look at here is that if we switch to monochrome, you notice all of our picture control settings switch over to those that are used with monochrome. Again, I'm not going to go through all these. You can find further explanation of any of these settings in your Nikon manual. So the new button here is used to create a new custom picture control. So when I click this, you're going to see that it's going to walk us through a wizard that will help us create this new custom picture control. So we'll hit the new. First thing we have to do is select the base picture control. What's this one going to be based off of? I'm going to base it off of Vivid. So I select that, I press the next, and now what do I want to use for that? Which of the existing picture control slots, the custom slots, do I want to use? I'm going to use C4 again. That's the one I had before. So that's going to become the destination, and it's going to automatically name it. In this case, Vivid 03. I can give it a different name if I desire, but I'll stick with that. I click the finish, and now if I look here, you're going to see that I have a Vivid 03 that I can select. Finally, we're going to go down here and use the save and load buttons. So what we can do is we can save away a picture control in a standard NCP Nikon format that can be read by other Nikon devices or programs. So I'm going to save this away, and it automatically picks a name for me. I'll go ahead and use the Vivid 03 and I'll save that. And just a validation of the save. We can remove those if you want to, but I'm going to go ahead and leave it there. So now we've saved that away, and notice everything's 0 except the sharpening, which is a 4. So I'm going to now delete that custom picture control. I'll get a validation that I want to delete, of course. If I look, no more Vivid 03. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and I'm going to reload that custom picture control from where it was saved on disk. I'll get a validation that I want to do that. And now when I look, I've got Vivid 03 back. So this is very handy for saving those away and retrieving them as you need. You can have any number of picture controls saved away and easily recovered. At this point, I'm going to switch over to the D40 so you can see the settings that we can do on the D40 that are equivalent to those on the D300. This won't take but a few seconds. And start CameraRC. Should detect your D40. There we go. And we're set. So there's not many settings here to go over, so this should be pretty quick. On the white balance, you can set what white balance you want to use. And you can set a fine tune associated with that. That's about it for white balance. The equivalent to picture controls on the D40 and some of the earlier model cameras is shooting options. As you can see here, we can select what we want to use to optimize the image, and there's some various settings that can go along with that. If you want to know more about these, as I've been recommending, the best place to look is your Nikon camera manual. So additionally, there's no separate way of saving these settings, as they're only saved as part of the camera settings save operation that I discussed during the overview tutorial. So they can only be saved by the save camera and reloaded by the load camera settings. This ends our discussion of white balance and picture controls. I invite you to take the time to check out the next tutorial in our CameraRC sequence on bracketing and interval shooting.